CEOs of top companies could be well earning in multi-million dollars. In fact, one of the statistics tells us that the median pay for a Fortune 500 CEO is about $15 million. That is an absurd amount of money. And obviously, it shows absurd amount of value these guys bring in. But what makes them so valuable? Let's find out in today's video. Of the new CEO at Starbucks. The guy has gotten about $10 million in signing bonus. That sounds like an absurd amount of money, like I said in my opening remarks. But he's not unique. There are tons and tons of examples in the tech industry or even across other industry verticals where CEOs often are lowered from one position to another and they're offered amounts of money which sound insane to all of us. At times this question comes up that what makes them so valuable, why they couldn't find somebody within the organization who could play that role for obviously a lot less in terms of the remuneration. I put together a framework, a list of tactics, a list of skills, what these CEOs bring to the table, and what makes them so valuable. A lot of us who are in the space for a long time, have a lot of experience, can relate to all of the skills. So let's look at that list. I've divided this list in about 9 different criterias, which I think make a CEO really stand out, and what is probably most crucial for the nomination of a CEO. The number one criteria in my list is, do they have a vision? The vision could be about the industry. Have they seen the industry really deeply and they have a perspective on where this is headed? Secondly, can they paint a picture of the future for this company or this industry? Tons and tons of examples where this vision can lead to significant disruption down the road. The second criteria is being a turnaround champion and what kind of track record they have. I think this is the number one thing, and I'll show you another chart as we move along on how critical I feel this component is on the identification of the right candidate for the job. Having a record from the past, having done something tremendously, is the number one identifier of the right candidate. Even in the case of Starbucks, you see this person, the new CEO is actually coming, or the outgoing CEO of Chipotle, where they've seen a significant turnaround. Most times, when insane amounts of money is given and these candidates are chased down, they generally have a very strong track record, and the shareholders or the board is trying to replicate a similar type of success for their own brands. Number four is a trait which is extremely well respected, is the ability to take risks, number one, and then how bold are they in their decision making. Ability to take risk is not understood really well at the lower level, but as you go into either an entrepreneur mode or you take bigger and bigger positions, you realize is one of those skills which is really sought after. A lot of people um are not really able to make decisions which can change the fate of a company, and this is where risk comes into picture. Obviously those decisions come with a ton of risk. So what is the approach for these folks to take those risks? How do they calculate those risks? How do they weigh in their options? Is a critical factor in the qualification of a CEO. Fifth factor on my list is going to be around operational expertise. Again, I would particularly look at from a perspective of an IT services business. These CEOs are the ones who know how a business operation takes place. How do you take care of customers? What are some of the factors which go into running or building a business? How do you scale this business? Where are the efficiencies hidden in this business? Where is the wastage taking place? So these guys have a pretty strong handle on the operational aspects of the business. Next, I like to call them undercover CFOs. Most of the CEOs I have worked with or dealt with have a very strong handle on the financial aspects of their company. Yes, they have a CFO, and they are obviously dealing in the depths of the finances, but the CEO is one who understands the financial aspects of the company extremely well. They're very deeply engrossed into the area of budgeting and where the profits are, where the margins are, what's the future, where which categories are the ones which are going to be growing, which are the categories or the products they need to kill because of profitability. Those things like that. When you work closely with the CEO, you realize that how heavy is the stakeholder management for them, especially when you work with public traded companies. There is tons and tons of stakeholder management, right from your shareholders to the board, to employees, to media and press. There is tons and tons of shareholder and stakeholder management which takes place. Now, why this is important? Because CEO basically represents the company in front of all of these folks, and the messaging plays an extremely important role, as probably important as execution of those goals and numbers what are given to the market. So stakeholder management plays a very big role in the life of CEO. Next factor is the change management and able to make the change. Most of the organizations you will see, they, even if they have been in existence for some time, or they are a very modern organization, people have their own ways of doing things, and people get into those ways of execution. A CEO's job is to bring in that shift in the company, which is for the better. So being able to inspire and create that change within the organization is a huge activity which a CEO has to drive and make that happen within the company. Now, next one is going to be ethics and integrity. We have seen in the past excellent CEOs, but driven with the wrong motives, often drive the company down into the dungeons. So, ethics and integrity rate very high on a CEO's profile. And lastly, adaptability and the ability to inspire others. How adaptable these CEOs are, how they've changed with time, how they've themselves kept updated, and how have they inspired their entire organizations to take actions. That plays a huge role in interviewing or being qualified for the top job. All right. Now, those were some of the 9 or 10 criterias which I thought make for the composition of a great CEO. But even more important, here is a spin to it. Look at this slide. Um, I've now actually categorized and added some weights to each of the criterias, and this is my view on where the most meat is. So the number one factor from my perspective is around the past records, right? A lot of us may have done significant or built those type of skills in our life, but the number one thing which differentiates CEOs from others, or the top CEOs from others, is have they had those opportunities where they've shown and done the turnarounds in other organizations? Have they shown that they can paint future of the company and actually help deliver that future? One of the key example which stands out in my mind, which I read very recently also, is the CEO of AstraZeneca. If I'm not wrong, early 2014 they were being bid to be bought over, and the CEO didn't want that to happen. At that point, the CEO actually set a target of about $40 billion of revenue in 10 years. Last year, AstraZeneca crossed that number even before the time which they had set up. So they actually achieved their number even before the deadline came. Now that's the kind of track record which makes you eligible for some of the top positions in the world. Now AstraZeneca and their new their CEO has actually set a target of $80 billion as a next target for the company. So that's the kind of vision, that's the kind of future painting I'm talking to. AstraZeneca is now trying to take a big share of the weight loss drug and the cancer research and the cancer related drugs in the industry. So I think that's the number one criteria which makes CEOs so valuable. The other two next rated criteria from my perspective are the boldness of making decisions, and also the ability to operate and be that innovator. Both of these, with the example I gave you from AstraZeneca, both of these criteria should be very clear. The CEO actually demonstrated that he could be very clear in his idea. He could be bold by fending off a takeover. He could be an innovator by investing in the right areas, and hopefully they would get rewards of those. Now, yes, we know that it's not given that those bets would really play out, but that's where the industry rewards you when those bets play out. I remember Jeff Bezos saying that we like to see leaders who are right the most often. All right, that's my framework for qualifying a CEO, and what are those traits and skills that make them so valuable. If you found this useful, please share with your circles. I'd also like to hear if you've seen any other skill sets which are extremely important for CEOs and becoming, and or somebody wanting to become a CEO in the future. Thanks for watching.